We all. Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're all good to go?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the IV Community Services District to order at 6:01 p.m. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. Could we get a roll call, please?
Director Carmichael.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Brent. Here. Plot.
Here.
And Top.
Here.
And Director Dasher is absent and Seacos is on her way.
Perfect, thank you. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anaskoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items they'd like to pull for discussion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Fantastic. We get a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? And any abstentions? Wonderful. Now is the time for public comment on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. If you have a comment on a later agenda item, we will take those comments later in the meeting. Do we have any public comments? Any on Zoom?
No one's raised their hand.
Perfect. Seeing none, we can close the public comment period, moving us into discussion and action items. First up, we're skipping this one, right?
We're skipping item 1.
Okay.
We're going to move to another meeting.
Awesome. Newly first up, item 4.2, receiving a report from Santa Barbara MTD on annual service changes.
Okay, let me get the screen
Hi.
up. Yeah. Hello.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Great to be with you and to see some new faces since the last time I was here, which maybe has been a year ago. So I'm Hillary Blackery. I'm the Planning and Marketing Manager at Santa Barbara MTD, and it's become a tradition the past several years to come to your board to talk about our proposed bus service changes and give a few updates. Generally, we do this every year. This time of year in the spring, we go out to the public with proposed changes that would go into effect in mid-August. And so that's what we're doing again. So, excellent. So quickly, I'll go over what's in the presentation today. And I'll say that this presentation we've given in Carpinteria, Goleta, Santa Barbara, virtually. This is my last one, so thank you. There are aspects of our proposal that have nothing to do with Isla Vista specifically, like those routes don't go here, but I want you to get a sense of, it's all one system, get a sense of what we're dealing with and how we're addressing it. So that involves the current fiscal situation. These proposed service changes would go into effect on August 17th of this year. We're going to talk about the wave, which obviously you're all familiar with, actually starting in Carpinteria later this year. The downtown waterfront shuttle in Santa Barbara, and then first last mile service with Amtrak, which could be helpful over here as well. So I'll go to the next slide. So fiscal outlook. We're here, much like many other local governments, grappling with fiscal challenges. The main reason that MTD is facing what we call a fiscal cliff in a couple of years is because in the 2020 census, our Santa Barbara urbanized area, which is basically South County, same as the area that MTD's service territory is, we went over 200,000 people in population by like 2,000. Because of that, we moved from being a small urbanized area, or UZA, to a medium. You may go, well, whatever, that's just a different name, right? Different size, but we were qualifying for sort of incentive tier funding in the small bucket, if you will, that does not exist in the medium bucket. So we were getting money from something called the Small Transit Intensive Cities program, which is through the Federal Transit Administration. And that meant about $3 million a year, which was 30% of our federal operating assistance annually. Once we became medium, lost access to that. And there's no similar one in medium for doing well there, having a robust system in a smaller area. We're working on that with Congressman Carbajal to try to get that to exist for the medium, but federal policy, obviously it takes time. So this is where we are now. We're expecting final budget deficit for the current fiscal year of about 4.6 million and projecting for next fiscal year of over 5 million. We still have some, though it's ever dwindling, federal pandemic assistance. The feds really stepped up during the pandemic for transit because we were all hit so hard, obviously for ridership and things like that, costs. And we still have some of those reserves left, but they are burning at a more rapid rate to fill those gaps. And in a couple of years, probably 2028, there will not be money to fill that gap, but the gap will still be there if we maintain the same levels of service. Plus our costs to provide service have escalated, as have every other cost in the country. And this puts us in a place of needing to look at service reductions, unfortunately. It's nothing we ever want to do. That's like the least cool thing to do as a transit agency. We want to add more. This is where we find ourselves. So these proposals I'll talk about tonight reflect a 3.6% reduction in service. Next slide. So when we looked at this of what could we reduce in that 3.5% range, we looked at ridership on all of our routes. We looked at time of day and specific trips, system coverage. So if we affect a route here, is there anything else that's also there to cover that neighborhood or area? The current frequency, so how frequent is this? How frequent are other lines? Span of service, when does it start? When does it end in a day? And then the funding source, which is important because some of these things are grant funded, like microtransit. It's not grant funded forever, as you know, but cutting that wouldn't save us any money because it's not being paid from the sort of bucket that's going on. So next slide. So hopefully you can see this. I'm going to go very briefly through each one of these on 2 pages, and then we'll go into each in further depth. And I'll explain where those routes are if you're not familiar with them. So on lines 1 and 2, we're proposing to reduce weekday frequency or headways from every 15 minutes to every 20 minutes. On the lines 3, 4, 5, and 17, we're proposing to have Saturday service, where right now there's a little more service than Sunday, match Sunday. So if you were to open the schedule guide today, look at Sunday on those routes, that's what Saturday and Sunday are going to look like. That's the proposal. Next slide. Line 7, we're looking to eliminate the last weekday outbound trip. So it's just a one-way trip the last day on weekdays. Line 14, eliminating one weekday morning round trip, which would bring all day headways to an hour. And then on Saturday, on the 14th, also eliminating one Saturday morning round trip. And then on the lines 11, 23, and 25, which are all interlined with each other, and I can talk about that later, we would be looking to eliminate the last weekday out. And these are all linked because the same bus does these, right? So last outbound line 23 trip, inbound 25 trip, and inbound 11 trip. Inbound meaning basically from out here to downtown, from west to east. And then just this last thing on here, there's not a slide about this later, but we had a booster route for many years that served Alpha Resource Center on Cathedral Oaks. It's just like one trip in the morning. We've spoken to Alpha several times, and we both agree that it's not needed anymore. People are getting their different ways. And so that's already going to be eliminated in June. So Lines 1 and 2 that are interlined, and a lot of our service in MTD is interlined, meaning one route becomes another, and then it goes back the other way. It's a very efficient way to do it, but it also means they're all tied up together, right? So when you make a change to one, you kind of need to make a change to another. So this service is actually the most frequent of anywhere in the system of a specific line. Obviously, if you were to go out to El Colegio and stand at a bus stop, you have the most buses going by of any place, but these are the most frequent. Currently 15 minutes on weekdays, 22 minutes on weekends. 14% of our whole system, like revenue hours, service hours, is on the 1 and 2, which I was actually surprised to see that when I did the math. So what we're proposing is to reduce weekday headways to 20 minutes. So if you were standing at a, say, line 2 bus stop, instead of the 2 coming 4 times an hour, it would I can answer deeper questions on these next few if you want, but these next 3 slides are the routes that we're saying we would match Saturday to current Sunday schedules. So it's line 3 that serves Oak Park, Cottage Hospital area, Samarkand, and Santa Barbara. And then, and I'll just point out here on this slide that you end up losing 3 trips in a day when you trim the span of service. And we looked at ridership on some of these routes. It's like these are specific trips that would be eliminated. We looked at the ridership on those, and we felt that they were lower than, you know, sort of a standard ride, so that fewer people would be impacted, because that's where we're trying to get to. And I'll say, just as a caveat, you know, I'm saying 3.6% this year, but if money does not materialize in a big way in the next year, I will very likely be back here next year talking about double-digit percentages reductions. Again, we're gonna try to move heaven and earth to make everything possible to not have to do that, but that's sort of the reality where we sit right now. Okay, next slide. Lines 4 and 17, these both serve City College. They are also interlined. They serve downtown, west, lower west side of Santa Barbara, and the Mesa, and we would match Saturday to Sunday. Next slide. Line 5, same thing. This route goes downtown Santa Barbara, the Mesa, Hidden Valley, and the Cumber area, and we match Saturday to Sunday. Line 7, so this just gets us a little bit further out here. Currently runs 7 days a week with 30-minute headways on weekdays, an hour on weekends. It goes from downtown Santa Barbara, goes to La Cumbre Plaza, goes through the area along Calle Real where the county campus is, and then through a neighborhood to then eventually get to the Calle Real area, I think Trader Joe's, Sprouts, that area, and then winds up in Old Town Goleta. Current weekday span of service, the outbound doesn't match the inbound. So the outbound goes later. There's one late trip. Outbound goes from about 6 a.m. to 10:40 p.m., but inbound is 6:30 to 8:15. So there's this one trip that's outbound, that's late, that's been on the schedule for a long time. But we took a look at ridership, and it averages about 4 riders per that one late trip. And so what we're proposing is to eliminate that specific outbound trip, which leaves the transit center at 9:45 p.m. on weekdays and gets to the end of the line at Hollister and Kellogg at 10:37. So we would be eliminating that. Next slide. This is just a note about the line 7 has actually already gone into effect with the double roundabout. It's now in Old Town. We used to have to turn back around to head the other way in Old Town. We used to have to go back into the neighborhood on the line 7, but now we can just go around the one of the 2 roundabouts to turn back around, which is very helpful. We appreciate the City of Goleta for Project Connect. Next slide. It doesn't eliminate any stops or anything. It's just line 14, which goes to serve Santa Barbara, downtown Santa Barbara, the east side, and also Montecito. it's, on weekdays, it runs every hour except for 1 hour in the morning where it's 30 minutes. And then Saturday it's an hour and a quarter. And then, so what we're recommending is one morning round trip to be eliminated. And that's averaging between 4 and 6.5 riders on those trips. So that we could sort of standardize those headways and it wouldn't change the span of service. Next slide. Okay, so a little closer to home here. Our lines 11, 23, and 25, and of course line 6. These are all interlined, meaning they come each other and loop back around. And this is a very, I think, important thing for our riders in that if you take the line 6 or 11 from, say, downtown Santa Barbara, you're going to wind up, it's the same route through Old Town Goleta on the State and Hollister corridor, and then the 11 branches off, goes to the airport, goes to UCSD, IV, winds at the Community Rail Marketplace. The 6 just continues down Hollister. But when they get to that Stork and Hollister point, they become other things, right? And so they continue on to 23, which serves the El Encanto Heights neighborhood around Dos Pueblos High School, and then 25 that serves Elwood. And so an outbound 23 always becomes an inbound 25, which becomes an inbound 6, and then the 23 becomes an 11 and has the type. So sounds confusing when you just talk about it, but it works quite well when you're on the bus. So you don't have to transfer at that point, and you can get that one seat ride. So they're all linked together in the schedule as well, and then what the bus is doing. So if you go to the next slide, the line 6 ends earlier in the evening, so service ends earlier. But what we're proposing based on ridership and just sort of span of service would be, so we have one bus right now that leaves funny that in that intersection, it's all like points of reference that are fast food. So Rusty's Pizza Stop, the line 23 currently leaves there at 11 p.m. heads out, then it becomes a line 25 at 11:18 at the end of the line in Winchester Canyon, comes in, turns the corner, hits McDonald's at 11:30, and then heads in through IV and all the way into Santa Barbara. And that's currently the last trip on the line 11. If that didn't happen, just, for the line 11 piece, the latest one would be, if we got rid of this, the latest one would be at 10:30. And there's no matching late trip in the opposite direction on the 23 and 25. So these are just one-way trips. The 23 and 25, very low ridership at that time, 1 or less than 1 somehow rider per trip, averaging so far this year. And on the line 11 has about 9 riders per trip on that late trip. So we know people definitely use it, but that's sort of as we're trying to find bits and pieces to reduce, to close the budget gap, this is one that we looked at. All right, next slide. Okay, so that's all the painful part. The Wave, as you know, has been operating out here, Goleta and Isla Vista, since, actually, maybe it's been a year, this week, since it started. Runs Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the ridership's been growing. It's been growing month to month. Little lulls in December and January, just when UCSB is out of session, ridership goes down. Surprise. Makes sense. But it is continuing to grow as we move forward, which is great. As a reminder, it's funded by temporary State of California Low Carbon Transit Operations Program funds. And we are currently in our budget recommending maintaining the current service levels in the Goleta and Isla Vista zone for this upcoming fiscal year. We did not, originally it was devised as more service, we would have it later, we would have it on 6 days a week, but because of the way we started it, with, making sure we had enough drivers to make it happen, we think that in this moment, there's enough to keep it at that same level, which is generally with one van, and people really aren't waiting more than, you know, the average wait time's like 12, 10 or 11 minutes, which we think is pretty good for on-demand. So we're recommending maintaining current service levels through the next fiscal year, which is longer than we were expecting, so the burn rate's a little less. And then we're planning to start carpinteria service in mid-September of this year. So those will be happening at the same time. If you want to go to the next slide, any carpinterians. You all know about how the rate works, so I don't need to tell you. You can go to the next slide. It will cover all of the city of Carpinteria, everything in the city limits, plus some county unincorporated areas like the Santa Claus Lane area. Carpinteria is small enough and less, let's say, densely populated that we think we can cover all of it pretty easily with those vans. So Carpinteria is very excited because we've been talking about it and they've been jealous of you for a year. So next slide. The downtown waterfront shuttle looks to be back for summer again this summer, and we're happy that it looks like next Tuesday City Council is going to approve funding for it, which is great. That partnership hasn't been there for several years, so we appreciate their cooperation, and that'll be 10 to 6, just Friday through Sunday again. But other than that, next slide. Amtrak first last mile service. You have to be under a rock to not know that SBCAG has funded additional rail service on the Pacific Surfliner that will start next Monday. And this says we're working on agreement. We executed an agreement with SBCAG for us to provide first last mile bus service from the Goleta Depot and Santa Barbara. 2 routes from Goleta, 1 route from Santa Barbara. We'll be there in the morning to pick up folks who get on the like sort of commuter timed train, arrives usually at 8:11, and then get them where they need to go on 2 specific routes, one of which will wind up at UCSD. Go through Old Town Goleta and then wind up at UCSD. And then in the afternoon, people up those same areas and get them back in time for the train. We did this back in 2018 when the train there was an additional train in the morning, and so the routes are replaced. And anyone who has a valid train ticket or pass that day rides for free on any of our buses. Next slide. Quick note, our tap to ride system is on our whole fleet at this point, so if you have contactless payment, you can tap it and pay, and we have it configured for people 65 and over, people with disabilities, and Medicare card holders that they're eligible for like a cash discount or our regular, 30-day passes, paper passes, but they're able now to enroll so that their bank card is linked with their eligibility so that when they tap, they get charged the half fare, and then they're capped within a 30-day period at the cost of say a senior 30-day pass. Great. Next slide. When we do this outreach, and I'm closing the survey in the morning, so if you haven't taken it, it's time. At our website, sbmtd.gov/service changes, everything I just described is there as well. And we have a survey slash explainer that people can go on and say their take on what these proposals are. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that presentation. Before I open up on board questions, see if we have any public comments, either in person or on Zoom.
No Zoom.
Okay. Seeing none in person, see if my fellow board members have some questions or comments. If not, I can start us up. I wanted to just confirm the Amtrak first last mile service. You said that the route for the Goleta Depot will route through UCSD.
Yes, one of them will. So in the morning, it'll pick up at the depot at when the train gets there at 8:11-ish, And then it heads through Old Town Galena and then hops on 217, hits Ealing's Hall and North Hall bus stops. And then in the afternoon, it starts at North Hall and winds back the other way to catch the train that leaves at 4:25. So whether you care about the commute train or not, just know that if you're trying to get to Glue Depot, you could take the wave, or Monday through Friday, you could take that bus, that leaves North Hall at 3:50 to get to the train.
Fantastic. And do you know if that's gonna stop at the bus stop there or go like all the way to the depot?
All the way to the depot. All the way, yes, the platform.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other board comments or questions? Yeah.
Well, thanks for the update. It's great to hear about the wave continuing for another fiscal year, which is really exciting. How has the program utilization been?
Really good. I mean, it's growing. I think we cracked 400 riders in 1 month. I forget which month now, maybe February. But it's growing month for month. When there's a like spring break or something like that, it dips, but you can still see like per days of service that it's growing, which is great. And it is still free. We've had issues getting the payment system up and running. I think we are very close to that. So if you want a free try, then you haven't yet, do it now. We'll give people enough warning, right, that it's coming. But when we do charge for it, it's $3 for the standard fare and then $1.50 for seniors with disabilities. So yeah, but it's been good. We've had good reception. We've worked with some of the different partners, but there's always more we can do in marketing it, and we appreciate the help of the CSD who's helped us get the word out as well. And we know that it's very popular out here. I'd say the most popular like pickup drop-off spot right now is North Hall, but Ivy Community Center is always in the top 4, I would say. And Blue Depot is actually extremely popular as well. So is Trader Joe's, of course, but the depot is more popular than Trader Joe's.
That is really interesting. But I'm not surprised given how long that walk is if you've ever gotten off the bus with your suitcase, lugging it down that road.
That's right.
Do you anticipate that based on current ridership, if you do start charging fare, that it will be able to cover the operational costs?
Oh, no, definitely.
And so have a part of
it'll help, but it doesn't.
By how much? Like a long shot?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say any transit fare box covers, if you're like just absolutely killing it, like 20% of the cost of a ride, right? And with on-demand service, it's much less because you can only fit 7 people in the van, right? So.
And is the LCTOP funding something that you're considering reapplying for? Is that an option?
We do every year have an opportunity for it. The funds are not due to cap and invest sort of receipts. The money's not as good as it used to be, let's say. But we claim that money every year. It's not always for microtransit though. We are applying for that again, but I can't guarantee that it would be for that because obviously there's all kinds of needs, but it has been for the past couple.
So that's good to know. I'm just thinking about the nexus between our parking enforcement program, which you stick around, you'll get to hear a little bit the details of, but one of the things that we've discussed a lot as a board is how can we help give people alternatives so that they can get out of their car. This is definitely one. And I just wonder if there's an opportunity for us to help, purchase, say, ride passes or something like that. Something where we can help contribute funding to try to help people be able to use this service for when the payment system is turned on. I recognize that it's not, but I just put that out there as something that could be a really interesting strategy for us to pursue.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I've already let Sydney and Jonathan know. Like, we're happy to talk anytime about that, about some type of agreement, to help the operating of it go further, go longer, because that is, that was always kind of the idea of like, well, we're gonna pilot it, and hopefully if it's successful, other money will materialize. And so that's, and I'm very excited for you for your parking program, not just for maybe that possibility, but I know the whole sort of transportation ecosystem out here has been screaming for that. So that's exciting. But yes, we will talk anytime about what's possible to move it forward.
So thanks. I've got other questions, but I won't. I see I've got other colleagues that want to talk.
And you asked my question, so I'm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask, has there been any conversation with UCSB as well about the way of microtransit service or like trying to continue that service since I feel like a lot of students are using it?
Good question. There were very initial when we first were starting, and we've been talking about this for so many years before we started it. So there's been conversations, I would say nothing formal of like, hey, here's some money or something like that. You know, we have our student bus pass program, which is through the students and they vote to, you know, assess themselves for that. Microtransit's not included in that. I have heard from a couple people at UCSB kind of over the years at this point, like, well, that would be interesting if we did that. So we'll see, or if that sort of agreement with students were to change and include that somehow. I think we want to be very careful of just like, it's free all the time for that, which I know it has been, but if that was a benefit and if it were able to grow, we may not be able to keep up with the demand, right? And then you're like waiting 40 minutes for microtransit and what have we done, right? So, but good question. Nothing sort of formal or official on that, but again, we'll talk to anybody who wants to talk.
You would ask my last question.
Yeah, just one more thing, which is so when we're looking at the line 11 change that's in place, so I just want to make sure I'm reading the map correctly.
Yeah.
So that last outbound trip that you were describing that is getting cut from or proposed for cuts,
Inbound.
the last inbound trip,
Yeah.
that trip takes a path that goes up into Encanto Heights and then loops back around.
Yeah, sorry. So that whole, like all three routes, yes, up in Encanto Heights, through Elwood, and then down into Ivy and UCSB.
Got it. So it's service to Isla Vista, which is important to us, but it's also kind of in a roundabout way. Is that a fair way to describe
Yeah, I mean,
it?
I think for probably most people in Isla Vista, they have no idea it's a 23 and 25 before. It doesn't matter to them where the bus came from. It's just, is it gonna get me where I need to go downtown or what have you? So functionally for Isla Vistans, if they're not, you know, coming from those other neighborhoods, it would just mean that the latest trip to get on the 11th from, let's say, Isla Vista and UCSB to downtown on that route, instead of leaving McDonald's and starting its trip at 11:30, it was the last one would be at 10:30.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful to know. And it is challenging because it's the piece of feedback that we always hear is I wish that the buses would run later. At the same time, I hear you that that's when ridership is lowest.
Sure.
And so there's like this challenge of, is it right for the system? And I do appreciate that the like real, what I would call the sacred cows or the golden goose, which to me are like the 27 to 15X or 24X, these express routes that are getting people to campus, that are getting them to downtown for their jobs or they're working, that those are totally staying the same. And
This year, yes.
at least in this year. And so I guess that actually leads me to my next question is like, you mentioned that you lost a bunch of this funding that was performance based. So it's like you were doing such a good job, you're getting more funding, then it got cut. That's a massive clip. So what can both we as a board, but just the community do to support your federal advocacy for if there is change at the federal level, making sure that this type of funding is a priority for communities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think, you know, it wouldn't hurt to let Congressman Carvajal know, like, attaboy, keep trying to work on this. We call it the medium-sized transit-intensive cities program, or MTIC. And so there's that. And then I would just say, just generally, right? California operating assistance, right? There's grant programs for, you know, buy a bus or whatever, but operating assistance through the Transit Development Act, state transit assistance is pretty slim, I would say. And so that's another place where money comes from for things sometimes for local services. So there's that. And then, yeah, I mean, we'll talk to anyone, we'll look under any rock, but I think that we are certainly not unique in public transit in California or actually in the country. But if any of you are from the Bay Area or you have friends who are there or whatever, their cliff is yesterday, right? And they're going over a ballot measure in the fall to save art and, community and AC Trans, all that. We've got, we're like small or whatever, but we have our own challenges, obviously. So we're all kind of up against it as those pandemic relief funds dry up.
Well, that's really helpful to know. It does seem like more and more it is local communities that are stepping up and voting to tax themselves to be able to keep this service going. So that's really helpful to know.
Any further questions? All right, seeing that, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very helpful. Hopefully next year we won't have some steeper cliffs. So stay tuned. All right, seeing as no comments, we can move on to agenda item 4.3, a fun one. The IV Recs and Parks District Summer Program Updates.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Want us to sit here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Hi, everybody. For those who haven't met, my name is Kimberly Kiefer. I'm the general manager of the Park District. And it's really nice to be here today presenting you not only an update of why we're asking for use of the wonderful community center, but also just share a little bit about what we're up to. And it's a really important topic. It's near to dear in my heart because I started out as youth and youth programming and a product of people who are engaged in civic programming at a young age. So real quick, just to give a little overview of our district. Next slide, please. So we've been working on a strategic plan. We're in year 2, and it's pretty exciting. We've been really trying to focus on how to improve our district internally, what I call like setting the dinner table to invite guests over. So we've been working on our community engagement. We put together a really nice plan that was board approved and had our first retreat last March. And we're really proud of the outcome. We worked really hard collectively to identify 7 goals that meant a lot to our district, to our board, and to the community. So just a little bit about our mission. It's written here, it's also in our thing, but really our district was established in 1972. We managed the 25 parks and programs here in Isla Vista that's focused on recreation and park. And when you all came along, which was really wonderful, it allowed our district to really just keep focusing on that mission. So recreation and park, that's our main goal. That's what we're funded for. And we've been able to excel and do a lot of really cool things, I think, in the last 5 years post-COVID. Next slide. And thanks. And looking at really our vision. So like looking ahead at what we're engaging in. So we're really proud of the 5 years of the programming that we've done in the parks with music in the parks. Our movie series, we have our really wonderful Halloween event for those who've been able to attend. And we've been able to do some improvements. So with like, for example, Pardal, which many of you attended the groundbreaking, thank you for coming. We had a really, basically transformative experience to one of these park properties. And we're gonna continue to find grant funding and other ways to be able to operate. Right now we have a 2.1 operating budget. It's very tight and includes 10 staff members, 2 management salaries, and then about 7 or so part-time staff that are mostly students. Next slide. So this is a little bit about our park range. So if you haven't been out to the parks, please go out there, get out there. It's pretty awesome. We have a lot of what I would call pocket parks. We have a few playgrounds. Estero Park has, the food forest as well as a community garden program. We've kick-started our Stewardship Saturdays, which are really fun. If you want to come out for the quarter, if you ever want to come and greet or be a part of the volunteer day, we welcome you every Saturday from 11 to 1. We try to do an education component. We always try to include some type of food support, so snacks. Very funny enough, we were just called the Isla Vista Recreation Snack District, which I love. So we always try to give snack and water at our events, really ensure that we're connecting with the communities, so working with like Gauchos for Recovery, other different groups that might not be able to be as visible. Our district actually just won a really great award for the California Association of Recreation Park department for our Forward Ever, Backward Never event, which was also at the community center. So the reason why we're talking today is, next slide, is to really focus in on our goal around recreation programming. And I'm going to hand it over to Luis. But at the end of the day, we really see this as being a cornerstone to making sure that we're meeting our goals and continuing to further them and serving the community. Thank you.
Luis Valerios, the general manager. Nice to meet everyone. So one of the goals of the strategic plan is recreation programming. It's number 3 in the strategic plan. And the main goal is kind of how do we continue to provide the same level of service. We have an after school programming that is the longest running program the district has been running for. It's a free after school program Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. At Children's Park. And we've also went from hosting 2 community events prior to COVID to now host over 13 events during the school year, including a movie series in the beginning of September, our Halloween event, Dia de los Muertos, Life of the Community. We've got Whatever, Backward Never, and then our concert series that's currently going on right now in Asheville Park. You can go to the next slide. Part of the strategic plan was to help expand the program and add more to our recreation outfit. And so this is just a quick overview of some fun facts of our first expansion, which is the events program, which this year we've had over 15,000 people attend our events. We've held over 45 events since 2021, or 40,000 people in attendance. Our annual event budget is $201,000, which is funded by Measure O, which is a special tax that the district passed back in 2018. So we thank the community for passing that tax, because it definitely goes a long way in helping us provide that. And it has allowed us to open up our operational recreation budget, which was, again, funding the after-school program, to now our summer program. You can go to the next slide. So our summer program, we kind of took a pause during COVID, and last summer was our first summer back. And so we are open Monday through Friday during the summer for 9 weeks. And it's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we serve Isla Vista residents, of course. We do have some Toledo residents as well that come in and take advantage of it. We partner with the Toledo Unified School District, and so if you're part of the Toledo Unified School District, you can provide it, attend our program. It's for 1st grade to 6th grade. And last year we had a full camp, 30 kids is what we were able to accept at a wait list. We have field trips every week. We work with Student Transportation of America to get the big yellow school buses, and we take field trips once a week to various locations. Last year we went to Moxie Museum, Natural History Museum, Lake Casitas Water Park, some of the trails, Carpinteria Beach. So it's really fun, very popular. This year we're expanding. We're going to be accepting 40 youth program participants. We're increasing staffing levels to accommodate for that. We're also partnering up with the Toledo Unified School District to provide free breakfast and lunch for anyone under the age of 18. So the breakfast and lunch program is not you're not required to be in our after school our summer program to get the meals. That's for the entire community. So anyone under the age of 18, even if you're not in our summer program, you can come by. There'll be set hours and times for those. Menu for the month, so you can see what days you want to come. If you don't like something on the menu, you can skip it, and all those meals will be free and provided by the Unified School District. So we're really excited about that. To see that partnership continue to grow here in year 2. We're here today because the program last year was hosted at Children's Park, which is our hub. That's where we have restroom facilities there, storage closets where we keep all of our equipment, arts and crafts, sports equipment, all that kind of stuff. But we are currently scheduled to begin the $5 million renovation of Children's Park. We received $4.2 million from the statewide park program a few years back, and so we are scheduled to break ground this summer. And so we need a new facility for our summer program, and so we're here to request some use of the community center. We've had some conversations with Jonathan and the team, so appreciate inviting us today. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. You go to the next slide. with our request, there's just, it is a Monday through Friday request, from 8 AM to 5:30 to allow staff to come in early, get everything set up. The use of the tables and chairs, given that we're gonna have 40 youth, we'll try to maximize all the tables and chairs as possible. We might need to bring some additional tables and chairs during, the breakfast and lunch meals, because, all our kids are eating, and we still wanna accommodate for other people to come in and enjoy those, free meals as well. Use of the pantry kitchen as well would be part of this partnership. There is some requests like Delivery Unified has specifically, which are on the right side on the screen. They would like to have a dedicated fridge to store items such as milk and some other stuff overnight, so not having to transport all of the portions of breakfast and lunch. Also, they just have some standard, which we'll show them when they provide it with us, kind of like janitorial things, supply closet for janitorial servicing, daily cleanings, as well of the kitchen and of the site itself. Dedicate parking for their van to pull in with the food that's going to be prepared at one of the elementary schools, and then be brought over here to be served. And also potentially they're still working out the logistics of this, but serving carts, kind of like old school elementary, so they can serve the lunches out of them as well. And this would be in collaboration with the host facility permit that they would obtain from the county health, environmental health department. And as far as our programmatic needs, I mentioned tables and chairs. We will most likely have to ask if we can store some cabinets in the community center to have all of our like books, board games, arts and craft supplies. We have a couple push carts that have all of our sports equipment that we would want to store over here on site. We're planning on just moving everything over here, utilizing all these park spaces around the community center to do activities with the youth. Kind of have access to the outdoor patio, and then kind of similar to the unified janitorial service support to get everything clean. 40 kids is a lot of kids, and I'm sure I'll need a cleaning, a routine cleaning. So,
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you for the consideration. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you all. It's been great to see all the work that you all are doing as well, and we think the community center is a great fit for this. And thank you to the CSD leadership team for all of your work, and really appreciate y'all. So that's it. Just wanted to come and actually put a name to the face and say thank you, and hoping that this is going to be an opportunity for us to further develop our partnership.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for coming to give this presentation. Before, as always, we have any public comment from either Zoom or in person on this agenda item?
No.
All righty. See if my fellow board members have any comments, conversations, questions.
And I want to clarify, we can approve this free use of the space based on our policies. The board doesn't need to take any action.
Okay, perfect. Any questions, comments? Yeah.
Just wanted to say thank you for the great presentation. It's really awesome to get a little taste of the different program that you have available. I think it's so awesome, especially the opportunities for the kids in the summer. Really cool.
I mean, definitely to echo that, I mean, our parks and open spaces are definitely one of the shining stars of Isla Vista. I mean, I affectionately call Estero Park my backyard because I am there every day. Sometimes multiple times a day. It's a very lovely space. But it's just so wonderful to see everything that, we're offering to the community, especially to the youth. I mean, fantastic things from just place to be where your parents at work, a healthy 2 meals a day, which can be really difficult during the summer. But it's wonderful to see the shining stars of Isla Vista and see all the really wonderful ways we support our community here.
And the time period that you've chosen, that's because that's when the kids are out of school in the summer. They go back to school in mid-August. Man, that's early.
In August, yeah. We've the program ends the Friday. Last day of the program on Friday. School starts the following Wednesday.
Oh,
so we take it all the way.
And I'm assuming that we don't typically have a lot of call in the community center.
That's why it's free, because it's under the slow period and it's open to the public service, so it counts as free.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the janitorial support, is that seem like it's gonna be more than we do
We
now?
clean every day.
So do you think that that'll just be routine?
We don't have to change it.
And most weddings we have are all on the weekends too, so it shouldn't be an issue either.
Not often at 9 in the morning.
No.
Yes. Probably not. Yeah.
Well, it's a very exciting program. Very nice.
I'm glad to see that it fits in with, you know, our slow period, and we don't have a bunch of other demands for the community center, because, yeah, what a fantastic use for it.
I just also want to say I'd be remiss if I didn't say a big thank you to you and your board for being such big supporters of Soultopia and working with us to figure out this crazy idea that we could maybe do something that would help make that weekend safer. And I know that it was a lot. I know it was treading a lot of new ground, but I'm just really happy with how everything worked out. You guys were awesome partners throughout the process. We could not have done it without you. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Yeah, and vice versa. Congratulations and kudos to your board and to my own team. I mean, you guys set new stages, if you will, literally. So thank you for helping expand our minds too
Like that
on what's
metaphor.
possible. Yeah, yeah, truly. Thank you. Yeah. Yay, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to come and give you guys an update. So
Yeah,
thanks so much for your
This is
time.
lovely.
Yeah, yes.
This is really great.
And yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry, I am very Gen X. So this
Oh, no,
is,
I love
this is paper. We do have this online. We do have this on our website. Welcome to go and check that out. And other links, and anytime we give you our cards too. If you ever have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Lovely to see you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Alrighty, so moving on to item 4.4, our IV Community Network report from staff.
Okay, I'll let Sydney work with our ad hoc committee on revamping IV Community Network, so IVC, and we'll talk to you about what we're planning to do.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna sit here and read this report to you, but I'll kind of summarize a bit. So as many of you know, IVCN has been around for about 20 years as a space for agencies, organizations, and residents to kind of come together, connect and share updates. So it originally started as a monthly meeting that was focused on really very specific agency updates that were specific to IV. But over time, attendance kind of dropped and it just wasn't as effective anymore. So we decided to shift it into a quarterly panel style event focused on things like safety, emergency preparedness, community wellness, all that good stuff. And those did hold some value to some extent, but they haven't fully met the need for consistent ongoing updates. So through conversations with our IVCN working group, it became pretty clear that what's missing is a more regular, accessible way for agencies to share information with the community, while also still maintaining opportunities for everyone to kind of get together and collaborate as well. So what we're proposing is to kind of fold IVCN into our board meetings by creating standing agenda items for agency updates. So those key partners would include the County of Santa Barbara, IVCSD, law enforcement, associated students, and IVRPD. And really anyone else who has relevant updates to share, they can come as well. But those would be the key partners that would have those standing agenda items. And the benefit is that it's consistent, it's public, it's recorded, and it helps to make sure that that information is actually getting out to the community. And then it builds on that original intent of IVCN as well. So we're not getting rid of IVCN by any means, we're just kind of shifting it again. And we'd still keep the quarterly networking lunches, maybe breakfasts, so that there's space for people to connect and collaborate as well, outside of this kind of formal meeting setting. So if the board is supportive, we'll work with partner agencies and develop that structure for updates and launch it at a future meeting. I'm also happy to take any questions or if anyone from the ad hoc committee wants to share anything as well.
Yeah, I will just share, we had a great meeting, Kirsten was there too, where we kind of workshopped, both looking at, you know, the large amount of staff time that was going into doing quarterly meetings, or panels, which is even more tough to organize than a meeting. And then looked at the impact and thought about the things that made the old model of Isla Vista CN work, and definitely just getting those updates shared out from external agencies, kind of like we just did right now, serendipitously with IVRP, was something that was definitely rose to the top as one of the more useful things. And then we also talked about how there is value in the state of Isla Vista programming, but that we would want to confine it to just 1 year so that it's not, you know, a major burden to plan all of them.
And we have on the opposite, we have a line on the AS agenda. So we always are on their reports, IVCSD, so we would be doing the same for them. And the IV Foot Patrol used to report at the IVRPD meetings like 30 years ago or something like that, like a long time ago. So it's not a new idea, it's just new for us.
So could you talk a little bit more about what the quarterly networking lunches / breakfast might look like? And like the specific aims of those networking opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what we kind of had a networking element prior to each of the panels, and people could kind of come and have lunch together for like 30 minutes before the actual panel started. And it's just a good way for people to network, get together. A lot of these agencies don't always spend a lot of time in IV, so it's a good opportunity to bring people here, talk about different ways that we can work with various partnerships. But yeah, anyone would be invited and all are welcome. Residents, like I said, organizations.
Fantastic. Yeah. With all my questions, if you have any other comments from board members or public comments from in person or on Zoom. Boardroom. Oh, yeah.
No
That's
one
right.
on Zoom.
I just had the question of like, so what are the next steps?
Yeah, so the next steps that I would take would be to reach out to each of it is outlined.
I already put it.
It's okay, it's outlined in the report, but would be to reach out to each of those specific agencies, ensure that they are willing and wanting to do something like this. It would be something that we would put on our agenda. It wouldn't necessarily be a requirement for them to attend every school, and we meet twice a month. So, but it would be, the opportunity would be there. So I'd reach out to them, connect with them, kind of develop this standardized agenda item and go from there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that that's a great idea, and I think that, I don't know if everyone will be able to accommodate like attending meetings that regularly, but even if it were like a quarterly update,
Right.
I think that would be amazing, because I feel like that kind of communication also kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about, like community outreach and connecting more with the various, you know, entities across UCSD and Isla Vista. So
And if we're getting a, you know, once a month public safety update in our board meetings on what crimes and arrests happened the last month, that could bring more people to our meetings who are interested in that.
definitely.
You know, just for context, the old Islands Community Network, back in the pre-COVID days, I remember we would get a monthly update from law enforcement. We also get one from County Public Works, from the Roads Commissioner. And so, you know, it's really nice to have all that information being shared in one place. The challenges with the old model was that it was not at a very convenient time for residents to attend. So it was very convenient for employees and nonprofits and service providers, but not convenient for residents. Whereas this is a little more convenient for residents.
And I mean, I think even if, I know that there's class difficulties and whatnot, at least specifically for UCSB students living in Isla Vista, but maybe that's something where we could do like a post after those meetings to say like, here's the update that we received. That way there's like out there, people can see it, even if they weren't able to actually.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think this model is a really good idea. You know, one of our strengths of our small size is that we're nimble and flexible. I think that reflects that, and the logic is very sound to me.
Sydney's been working hard on IVCN for a couple of years now, so
Yeah.
this is maybe
Taking
hopefully
a
the
lot.
most successful,
Yeah.
so let's keep it this way.
Yes, and we just need cooperation from our partners. right?
Yes.
Exactly, the fun part.
And the easy part.
Yeah.
And then just one more thing, we had talked a little bit about when, like, a possible time for the one State of the City event. That we thought.
We have a town hall proposed date for May 27th.
Yep.
At 5:30 p.m. This in a month.
What
So
were
we
the
were gonna bring
topics?
that up at our reports, but it's gonna be here, May 27th at 5:30 to 7:30. And we're branding it as Ask Us Anything Town Hall. But around cityhood, Saltopia, parking as like main topics. Hot
I
topics.
like the ask me anything, ask us anything.
How'd that work
I like
out for
that.
the police?
What do you mean?
Like, didn't they do a ask me anything, like come up to me on part all thing?
I think it was at like 9 a.m. during finals week. So
Wow.
ours is at dinner time.
Yeah.
which we know is the best time to get traction with food. Yeah.
Dinner time, dinner.
Yeah, I would just say, I think about what some of our most successful programming has been, and it's been where we really have like a good information to deliver rather than open-ended. So I just, let's think about, like, you know, if there's, you know, ideas that we have to push out and like really tell the good work that we've done to the community.
Oh yeah, there'll be a
Drop the message.
presentation. There'll be a presentation for sure. And then we'll go with our budget survey, which will cross promote.
Wonderful. See your hard work. I don't have many questions.
You know,
Thanks to the working group, it was very helpful, so.
I don't think we need a motion. I think we got
Go ahead.
our
I
direction.
believe it's direction, yes,
Yeah.
no other comments. We can move to item 4.5, our Survivor Resources Hub Annual Report.
First one ever, and Maya's gonna present this one. It's been a successful year, I think, from what we've seen, so let Maya walk you through it.
All right, everyone. Yeah, so like Jonathan said, this is our first time doing this specific type of program, I would say. To give you a little bit of background on kind of how we are here, we started off with really an online hub where we took all of the existing Survivor resources in Isla Vista and then we just put them in one place on one website. So UCSB has something where they offer like all of the UCSB resources, but there really wasn't something just for all of Isla Vista. So that was our first step and kind of what we had done last year, really creating that one-stop shop. This year, we wanted to see how we could take that a step further by not only having a virtual platform, but also getting physical in-person access to resources in Isla Vista, which has been something not on campus that we've been trying to grow and expand. So that's really the intention and what we've been trying to do. And when I talk about resources and things for interpersonal violence survivors, it's what we're doing, but it's also bringing together different groups, like standing together to end sexual assault, Thriving Not Just Surviving, Domestic Violence Solutions, UCSB Care, and I think that's it. I don't want to forget anybody, but it's a good network of facilitators and advocates and providers. So moving into the report, I'm going to talk a little bit about what our structural approach was this year, talk about the events, our engagement, go into how our survivor safe space is being utilized. I'll talk a little bit about what that is if you don't know, go over how our budget is looking, and then I'll dive into an internal document that we've been working on to compile really a potential journey that a survivor might take, not only through these resources and services, but also through the legal process, which can be really scary and intimidating. And that way we can start to better identify what challenges and gaps are not only in services, but beyond, and things that might not exist yet. And then we'll talk about next year and things we can look into. So diving right into our structure, we've broken it up into these different elements. So we've got educational workshops, educating people on services, but also on things that they need to be aware of. Coping skill workshops, and coping skill is basically just how you might self-care or soothe through something. Not necessarily talking about maybe interpersonal violence or the trauma. Retreats, which are a way for all of our different resources to come together and provide more of like a day-long combination of education and coping skill and group therapy. We have a survivor safe space, which is a room upstairs in this building that STESNA and Domestic Violence Solutions both have access for in order to bring their services into Isla Vista that people can access. And then we also started offering group therapy. So group therapy can be really expensive. And so we wanted to provide a space where people could come and connect with each other and talk a little bit more in depthly than they might be able to do in like a coping skill or educational workshop. So in our first 6 months, because it really, we're kind of doing this report like almost halfway through, I would say, but we had 4 different educational workshops, 1 that was bilingual, 2 in English, and then 1 that was only in Spanish. Those workshops were domestic violence awareness, intersectionality of interpersonal violence, raíces de la violencia sexual, and then trauma-informed community leader training. I would say all these educational workshops had fairly great attendance, and I'm really proud of their growth throughout the year. We've only done 2 coping skill workshops, 1 in English and 1 in Spanish, monolingual. And then we've done 1 retreat so far in October, and then we have 1 coming up in May. And then 2 group therapy sessions, so for a total of 9 events so far, and by the end of the year, we're expecting to have 11. So our engagement approach was really trying to prioritize resource distribution in both English and Spanish. So we know that there's a lot of resources on campus, and we also know that we have a lot of people in Isla Vista that don't have access to those resources, and so we want to make sure that they're accessible in both languages. So we created brochures this year that basically took all of the information on our Survivor Resource Hub and put it in physical material, and then printed them both in English and Spanish. And then we also did goodie bags. So what we were learning with some of the more direct Survivor events, like not necessarily just educational workshops, but the coping skills that were identified for survivors or the group therapy, can be really intimidating to get people in the door. And so we kind of pivoted to say, okay, if people are afraid to come here, how can we get into their home, provide them resources, and put a good taste in their mouth as a trusting agency with care? And that's where the idea of the goodie bags really formed. And so basically what the goodie bag is a bunch of coping skills, right, wrapped up into something that you can take home, and then either an English brochure or a Spanish brochure. So we did 2 different goodie bag pushes. 1 was in December, and they were all goodie bags intended for Spanish family communities. So the brochures were in Spanish, and then the things inside the goodie bag were culturally relevant to our Spanish-speaking community. So it was a little bit different than what we might put in a goodie bag for a college student, for example. And then we did another push with the other goodie bags at all of our other events. We had them for people to take home. Obviously, we also did our fundraiser at Soultopia. Our beer garden raised over $3,600 for STESA. We're really proud of that partnership, not only because we were able to fundraise, but also because STESA was able to do educational workshops to promote some of their practices and a mission that they're working on in terms of raise the bar. So it really went well hand in hand. And then also we went with Real. So we've been working with 1 singular group therapist, similar to how we did the same approach with Covena, really trying to humanize her, make sure that she's approachable, someone that you feel comfortable walking up to and maybe asking questions. We even tried to like deformalize group therapy a little bit and be like, just come have tea with a therapist and just ask questions you might have. Like, doesn't need to be something that is intimidating. And so our entire approach really has been just trying to meet the community where they're at with care and resources they deserve. And so we worked on informing, supporting, amplifying, and then humanizing those resources to try and get people familiar with them. So moving into our survivor safe space, so that's that space we have upstairs. I talked a little bit about how the organizations have access to it, but honestly, really limited use this year. We had implemented a checkout form so that we can start to evaluate how often it's being used and what it's being used for to see, how we can improve. And you can see on the right here, these are all the different things that people can use them for, like intake interviews, case management, just connecting and having a conversation with a survivor, even potentially meeting with law enforcement to write down, a case. But we've only seen it used about 4 times the entire year. And I did confirm that, so. I wasn't sure at first, but I wanted to make sure. And so we're starting to kind of ask these questions with our partners of like, why is it not being used more? It is a pretty significant budget. I think we pay about $8,500 in rent, and it's a really great approach to have physical in-person access. So we're trying to figure it out. Is it because there's no cases? Do staff prefer downtown? Do the users themselves prefer to go downtown and leave Isla Vista in order to talk about maybe an experience they've had? This is going to require some more conversations with our partners to kind of get to the bottom of it and just see where the gap is. Do people not know about it? Do we need to boost engagement around it? So my current recommendation is to maybe look about how we can expand use opportunities to beyond what we have now, to maybe see if we can make it even more accessible to more groups of people. We did have it open during Saltopia, and that was actually 2 of the 4 uses was with care staff up there. So just something to keep in mind as we're evaluating the program and seeing how we can better utilize that space more often. So our current fiscal budget, not including that space rental, is about a little over $16,000. And so I kind of wanted to give you an update on where we're at right now. So far we've spent a little over $4,000. We have about another $6,000 allocated, and then we have about $4,000 remaining. Why this is because some of the workshops didn't cost as much as that we originally thought when we were talking with our partners. And also, I'll talk about some of these challenges a little bit more, but when we're bringing together a lot of different nonprofit agencies who are also experiencing a lot of like budget cuts and fiscal restraints, it can be difficult to find staff to also support our program. And right now, you know, the Survivor Resource Program staff is just myself and Labney dedicated to it. So, you know, it's a small team and we want to be able to expand and bring people together, but if they're limited staff, and we can't, you know, necessarily facilitate those workshops with our expertise, we're kind of finding a little bit of a gap here. But with our allocated funds, we are participating in Denim Day at UCSB, which is coming up. We're really excited to be a part of that. It's a great engagement opportunity. We're going to be giving out goodie bags, and then we're also giving out sweet treat vouchers from IV Drip with a little bit of like a rose and then an attachment to our resource brochure. Again, the intention behind gifting people things is because we want people to associate comfort, joy with some of these resources as well to kind of ease into it a little bit more. Group therapy ambiance, I want to explain that. So this is the room we have group therapy in. I came to the first session. It is a very abrasive room to sit in when you are trying to talk about emotional things. The lighting is insane. It can be really loud outside. And so what we've been trying to do is cultivate a safer space that is a little bit warmer and also less of this harsh lighting, because you just feel uncomfortable when you're like sitting on a chair in a small circle in this room when talking about really intimate things. So we've been trying to do our best to make this space as like cozy and comfortable as possible to make it more accessible. And then we also have a May retreat coming up that we're really excited about. Our May retreat is going to combine a self-defense class with Stessa, with yoga, somatic therapy practices, a group therapy session, dinner, snacks, brochures, etc. And we're really excited. We're kind of taking we're taking an expansive approach on this to combine kind of all of those elements into 2 days. So we're excited. We're hoping this goes well. And then I just want to point out that remaining fund is an opportunity. Like I wanted to open that up also to the board. So you know, we do have some remaining funds in this area. So if there's something that comes to mind that you want to talk about, the Isla Vista Survivor Services internal document. So what this does is it breaks down all of the current interpersonal violence services available in Isla Vista to our residents. It also reviews how survivors receive medical care when they go to the hospital, potentially after an event. And then it also centralizes the legal process survivors can take from reporting to what they can expect in the courtroom. And I did that by meeting with the DA and taking very extensive notes, because when I looked and just Googled like what happens if I were to, you really don't see a lot of information out there. It's actually pretty ambiguous and limited. So what we do with this information, that can be, something that we look into next year, but we wanted to start just by compiling everything in one place so that we can start to identify where we might see service gaps and maybe want to use this program to support.
So if you haven't looked at it, take a look. It's pretty long. I think it's like 8 pages, and it's something that we're still actively adding to. I do want to meet with the new lieutenant. That is one perspective I have not gotten onto this yet. But everything else is on there. And the courtroom details, like from when you first report it to what the entire legal process looks like and how long it could take. Very interesting. A lot of things I didn't know. Moving forward to challenges and gaps. So like I said, attendance can be low at some events. So the educational workshops, we saw really great success, but then some of these more intimate topic workshops, it's difficult to get people in the door. I've heard this not only with our services, but across the board with all of our partners as well. So that's something that we found to be a challenge. I talked a little bit about this earlier, but all of our partners are also really short-staffed. So it can be difficult to get support running events for the Isla Vista community on top of the things that they're already doing, which is why we've also been trying to say, like, okay, how can I amplify things that you're already doing as well through these engagement approaches? Something that we heard in the beginning of the year, and we've just been kind of keeping in our own mind as well, is that one service gap that has been identified by multiple partners is their call center gap. So a lot of and basically the call center is essentially a number that you can call at CARE and at STESA. There's one at Be Well too, that basically, you know, helps get you access to care, whether it be an advocate or therapy or whatever it might be that you're looking for. And they're really short staffed. I mean, we have people doing full-time jobs and then also managing the call center. And both organizations express a need for potentially more support. So that's also something that we can consider moving into the budget season. And then, like I said, the survivor safe space utilization has been minimal. So that's something that I also want us to keep in mind. Wins, yay. Spanish only events have been extremely successful. Like, we are so happy with them. Like, we've done monolingual coping skill workshops and then also our educational workshops. We've really gotten a lot of people into the door. We've done in-person outreach, but also over the phone outreach. Like, we have a list of families that we call and invite them to things. And we've seen really great success with that. The goodie bags have also been a really great hit with just getting that touch point in people's hands. And then also over the past year, we've really developed really strong partnerships with all of these local agencies. We have consistent meetings, we check in with each other a lot. And that's something that also has been a really great part of this program. And then having those consistent education opportunities. Like, we have something every month when we can, barring March of this year, but every other month we've had something. So been really great and happy with that as well. So looking forward into 2026, I would love to repeat some of our successful events and then try and reorganize our low attendance events to see how we can maximize our resources, our time, and also get people to want to come. I also want to do some sort of long form video about those survivor services in both English and in Spanish. So just to have something consistent people can watch on their own that they don't necessarily need to come in for, that really goes through that document that is really long. So kind of taking some high level things from those services and then walking people through that so they can watch it on their own. I also would love to expand our Spanish only events, especially since this is something that, you know, UCSB does not offer on campus. Like, UCSB doesn't offer the community, right? There's a lot of resources for students, but our Spanish community is really something that we can uplift and do even more of, especially seeing how successful they've been. Given that, and also talking about reorganizing the events in English, maybe thinking about how we can have less often events, but making them longer and more impactful for the people that come. So like moving them into the retreat style kind of event instead of having like one-offs. And then also just continuing our engagement forward approaches. Goodie bags, our online outreach, our phone calls, things that have been working, we want to continue to do those and make sure that people know that they can reach out to us. And that's where we're at today. Questions, comments, anything?
I'll just say, yeah, it's been 6 months because we had to discontinue the other program, the interpersonal violence investigator. So it's been a good replacement, I think, so far.
But I feel like this is like beyond a good replacement.
Way good, yeah.
Very comprehensive, yeah.
Yay.
Like, it's like you're turning something that is like, I don't know, I feel like the interpersonal violence investigator was kind of like stigmatized, and now you have something that's like a community event. Like, that's really cool.
Thank you so much. Before I have to ask for public comment in person or on Zoom before we get to board deliberations. Seeing them.
Thank you for the presentation. Really great to see what we've been able to accomplish this last year. I definitely would love to take a look at that document that you put together. So whenever it's ready and published, please send it our way.
There's a draft that you can click on in the,
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Canvas.
the report.
Yeah.
If you click the title.
sorry, yeah.
It's okay.
Click title, I saw you tried, I was like, oh, gotta share it
Catherine's on
here.
it.
Catherine's on
yeah.
it. Yeah, it's very long and comprehensive, and like I said, I'm missing just one, but I wanted to meet with the new lieutenant since Joe is cycling out. But yeah, like the DA meeting I had was, like, I was typing faster than I've ever typed in my life.
I'm sure, and I know the process is complex, and that's part of the reason why it's so confusing for survivors and why some may choose not to come forward, not to report. And so trying to help make it less complex, help walk people through the process, I think is really super commendable. And I think that it really reminds me of where this program was when it was more investigation focused. And part of the reason we weren't able to continue being that the process is so opaque that even though we were funding in addition to the system, we still didn't know if it was going to the place that was making an impact or not. And so I guess if you're looking for feedback about things that can be done additionally in this next fiscal year, taking advantage of some of those funding, I just think about the things that we maybe are missing from even when I was a student, which is really advocacy. So when I was a student, I was there in the chancellor's office sitting in with activists that were seeking better systems in place for survivors that serve people better. And out of that came the Survivor Resource Room, which is awesome. I want to hear more about the utilization. It sounds like you're digging into it, but I just think that there's a lot in that process as you're going through and looking at what the process is for someone that goes through the system that I want to be hearing from people about. I want to be hearing about what it is that not just we, but that our partners in law enforcement, our partners in healthcare can be doing to improve the system at this point in time. Because the landscape has changed so much, right? In terms of what services are available. And I think that there's no one that is better to hear from than people that are survivors that are going through the process.
That is great feedback, and like my wheels are turning on maybe how we can incentivize people to take like an anonymous survey or something, talk about their experience and what they might be missing.
And really just drilling down on where are the gaps in the system that are not being met, whether it's something that we can help fill or something that we need to advocate to external entities to fill. I think if there's something that we can do to facilitate that activism that was there, that like just it was at a crescendo when I was a student, and now I think just the world has changed and the political dynamic is a lot different. That has led more people into silence. Anything we can do to support those voices, I want to do.
I think it's wonderful that you're focusing on Spanish language. I think that's really wonderful. And I'm wondering, when people say they need call center support, do you have a sense about what they're looking for there?
Staff, like physical staff support. When I was talking, and again, I was talking to them at the beginning of this year, and I can only imagine it's gotten worse or at least remained the same, is that they don't have enough staff to be manning it all the time. And when they are, they're using existing staff and they're stretched pretty thin. So when I was talking to them, I was like, well, would some sort of staff member that understood both call centers, because they also have different processes, right? One is for SESA and one's for on campus. And I think DV Solutions, they also have their own call center as well. So I was like, if there was one call, like if you could call one number and that one person knew the second step to all of the other centers, right? Like, could we support that gap in some way by funding maybe something like that? And there was definitely some interest in it. If that is something that we wanted to do, I would, maybe take it back to them and develop it more, but
And is there some way that we could help recruit and funnel volunteers? Seems like there must be a lot of people who are looking for community service hours.
Yeah.
yeah, some use volunteers, some don't.
Okay.
Because of the type of information that they're collecting, I don't think it can always be a volunteer. But maybe that is something we can explore. I can talk more about it.
Yeah, I had a question with that, the call center, if, I imagine even if they do take volunteers, it would take extensive training, to be able to do that, which might be a good use of our, safe space upstairs to even host these trainings. Cause I mean, I imagine you have to do like 60 hours of training before you can volunteer for this?
It's a lot. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that was another thing they mentioned was that the training is really extensive.
Yeah, so maybe being able to do like, group training every Wednesday, come with pizza and community, a little bit more incentive to continue along that process. And also use our space.
And make the space more human.
Yeah.
Right.
And you did such a good job with the community center. We know you can knock that out of the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that too. Is that a potential funding request that we might see in terms of capital space?
I wanted to get your thoughts on it, but yes, that was something that I was thinking about because, I mean, I was even thinking if it was like a part-time role potentially that could be utilized for all three different organizations and like had the training from all three to be able to kind of not overpass that step, but maybe take some of the load off. If people in Isla Vista knew that they had one number they could call that would take them to the second step of multiple survivor resources. And that was very well versed in the nuances between all three of them or four of them. Because we also have the coping skill ones, right, too. So yeah. And then one phone number, right, instead of like 4 or 5 that they could pick from, but it might be nice just to have that like one person that could help take the load off of those 4.
Almost like a resource concierge.
Right, like Be Well, like Santa Barbara County Be Well is kind of that, the behavior wellness line. I used to work at a place before here where the only way they would get referrals is through that one number that people called, and that one number could direct you and refer you to so many different places within the county. It would be interesting to have something like that, just more localized, only in Isla Vista, in both English and Spanish, would be really important.
I think the students who first came to us in the survivor room wanted to do something like that, if I'm remembering it right. So also an idea whose time might come.
And maybe
People
people could
graduate.
come.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting if it was a call center, but then maybe there was office hours where if you wanted to come in person at the survivor safe space, like you could.
Yeah. Intimidating to call people on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends. It depends. Sometimes it feels safer, communication, right? Less cues. It can feel safer to call somebody on the phone than to like go see someone in person. That can be intimidating. That was another thought I had with the safe space on maybe why it's not being utilized. Like you don't have to leave your home, you're safe, you can call. And maybe when you're ready to take that next step, you do want to see a person, right? Like you do want to have that like touch point. But maybe you don't want to make an appointment. Like you just kind of want to stroll by on your way home or something. No, that could be something else.
No, I like all the options that we give people here, which I think is a key, is meeting them where they are. I did have another question for the upstairs use. I know something that's difficult for like a lot of sort of student population is for individual like telehealth therapy appointments, it can be difficult to find an actual place to do that. Like, hey, you live in DP, you live with 15 people, so there's always someone home, it's not like you can do that in a library. So administratively, I don't know how we would handle that, but even just allowing that to be, you can use the space for your own therapy, might be popular.
That is a great idea. I could even see, I mean, we rent out all our spaces, right? Like if we had like an online process you could do, I could definitely see something like that for the upstairs space.
Yeah.
I could, yeah.
Okay. I had couple more. One is Annie bilingual.
She's not.
Okay.
That is something that I was pondering too, is having a group therapy space only in Spanish.
Mhm.
We toyed around with the idea of maybe having an interpreter, and it didn't feel authentic,
Mhm.
like to what we're trying to do. You want everyone to be able to communicate and not feel like there's a barrier in between. I will say that a lot of the times when we do the coping skill, we go to the Madre and Madre group as well. Like again, meeting people where that, and then we expand, more people end up coming to something like that. And there is a lot of facilitated discussion. Like that is a very mindful space of like mothers connecting that do talk in a way that I would say is similar to group therapy. And I think it's an opportunity.
Last question, the trauma-informed community leader training, who is that advertised to, and kind of what do you mean by like what is the definition of a trauma-informed community leader, I guess?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we advertise to IVCN first and foremost. So like the community network that we have of leaders. We also advertise it on campus for staff, UCSB staff. And I think we got a pretty good mix based on that. We had some that worked at local nonprofits, some that worked on campus. And basically what that means is how can you take a trauma-informed approach to your leadership and how you meet and connect with people who might be, you know, experiencing something. A lot of that is being really open with your language, offering a lot of different choices, not like forcing people to like pick one thing, allowing people to change their mind throughout the process. Just kind of taking a trauma-informed approach to any workplace that you might be in. Or if you see someone that's struggling, like how to approach them, you know, learning a little bit more about what options there are, things like that. And it was actually led by the UCSB care staff. We've had probably one of the stronger partnerships with them being able to offer things in Isla Vista, which has been really great.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. Yeah. Board comment? All right, before we close this out, I want to say again, thank you for the presentation. You know, I think tragically one of the, you know, biggest difficulties that we as a community face in Isla Vista is this sexual violence. And I really appreciate that we're, you know, offering something that really led by being compassionate and comprehensive. So I'm just really proud of this program so far, and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
And one more question, which is, do we get data on reporting through any part of this program?
Like data from our partners? Not really, no. I mean, we could. The only data that I tried to collect this year was, tried to collect was the safe space utilization. So before this year, there was no way, like there was no tracking of who was using it and when. So that's been the first thing, but no.
Well, you have like regular meetings, right?
Yeah, I meet with all of them quarterly. So we have a quarterly meeting where we all get together and I kind of hear a little bit about how they're doing, but nothing official, I would say. Like I don't know, for example, how many clients they see a month that are from Isla Vista, which I do think would be good data if they'd be willing to share.
Yeah, Census submitted some data last spring during our safety IVCN panel that we did. And so we at least have data that's a year old, that's like covered the previous 24, 25 years. So they've done it.
Yeah, and I can definitely ask if there was like data that I could collect in a dream world, what kind of data would you be most curious about?
Definitely curious about reporting statistics to the confidential resources, so CARE, STESA, TDS, and really with an eye for how it has changed over time. I'm also curious about reporting to law enforcement. I think that this is one of the few services that we work on where there's actually kind of an inverse relationship in terms of reporting and need. I view reporting going up as meaning that we're doing a good job because all of the peer-reviewed studies show that reporting is less than 10% of the actual sexual violence that occurs in the community. So if we can increase that number, it doesn't mean that there's more sexual violence happening. It means that there's more people coming forward. And I don't think that the system is going to change or that the resources will be able to change in a real like long-term way for people in our community unless people feel empowered to come forward. So that's just kind of why I'm curious because I know for a while there, you know, in the Me Too era and in the late 2010s that we were seeing an increase in reporting. I'm just curious where it would be now.
Well, we've given good direction. If we have nothing else, we can move on to 4.6. Our,
Thanks.
thank you so much.
Nice, right?
Ready. 4.6, our MOU amendment 1 with the County of SB for a parking compliance program here in Isla Vista.
Okay, so this has come up before, what's in this MOU. It maybe came up 2 years ago or so, or even longer as well, but the county has parking lots in IV. The main one is on Pardal, but this one's technically one, and so is the community center. 3 spaces are technically ones as well. And General Services has always had this pay station to pay for parking at the Pardal lot. And since our existence, we were tasked with like changing the paper out so that people can buy their tickets to pay to park. We never received any paper to do that, and I think the machine was broken until 2 months ago or so. But the machine is not working again, and so they can operate the lot like normal. I mean, in terms of it can be a paid lot again. So they approached us, the General Services, which again is like a different part of the county than who we've been mainly working with on the parking program. But they came and asked, could we add to the MOU that you would enforce not just on the street, but also at our lot, which, you know, technically our law is like most closely aligned with enforcing the lots anyway. So we are able to do it within our powers, but so that's what this MOU would do. It will go to the County Board of Supervisors on May 12th. Right, so May 12th, so it's not in effect yet if we approve it today, but yeah, this would add our authority to ticket people who are parked here in violation of the county permit rules, and at the county, at the Pardal lot in violation of their rules there too. There's public parking there and permit parking that the county has given to the building across the street. So people park in the residence space that they purchased, we'd be ticketing that as well. We would get to keep the same deal, the revenue from the citations, but the county would get the money from the pay station. So under this agreement, they would, if someone buys a paid parking, county keeps the money, but if someone gets a ticket or not paying, we would get the money from the proposal.
Public comment either.
So help me understand this. So the county in the solar lot is collecting revenue via the permits,
Yeah, day passes and such.
and they're collecting it both from the landlord, which has these set spots, and the ticket machine.
I don't know how the money flows between the landlord and the county. I know that those passes cost the same as the UCSB quarterly passes. They did like the residence passes at the Plaza Lofts who buy them. The monthly price is the same as UCSB. I don't know if that money goes to the property owner or to the county. I can figure that out. I would assume the county gave them those spots as part of the deal to build it. So I think the property owner might keep it, but I'm not sure. But the pay station for sure goes to the county. If you buy a $4 day pass, then it goes to the county.
And so, I mean, the county has this lot and they're making revenue off of it. Why can't they just pay for enforcement themselves? Don't they have general services staff?
Yeah, so they, I think, I don't know how much it brings in. I was told it's a very small amount in the single digit thousands, like under 10,000 sort of thing. And when they first contacted me about this in October, November, General Services, they mentioned that they were going to ask Ivy for patrol to patrol the lot in the interim until we could work out an agreement.
And so if there was a ticket that's written there, it would go through the normal process, which is that IVCSD would have a share, the courts would have a share, the county would have a share as well.
Well, the county, it's like the county court, so it's not really the county itself. Yeah, the 1250 goes to the county court, state court.
Okay. And then I have a separate question, which is the MOU also strikes the word ticket pricing.
Yeah, I think we were just updating things as we were cleaning up. So, because we're not setting ticket pricing, we've learned we cannot do that. And the county.
I was gonna ask about that too.
What is the status of those discussions?
The county is working on updating the bill schedule. It's just internal discussions are still happening, but they are doing it. So this is what we've been told, like it's happening. The steps to get there are still being worked out. I asked, will it happen in 2026? I was told, yes, most likely will happen in 2026.
What?
Yeah, I didn't want to ask 2 months. I was like, I'll just ask for the year. So I'm just,
Do we know if that action needs to go to the board of supervisors or if it's administered back in?
it's a board of supervisors. They're trying to work out how it will flow through the county to the board.
But like pretty receptive.
Okay, well, I have lots of thoughts, but I'll let you.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is I feel like if we're supposed to then supply enforcement to extra areas that we weren't anticipating and we're already kind of at a little bit of a financial loss with the ticket pricing, I feel like it would make more sense for us to be receiving some share of the paid for parking. Just considering that it would be like staff that we're paying that are going and doing that enforcement. So I feel like that's just my perspective on it. I think that is what seems more equitable, considering the issues with setting ticket prices. I don't know if that's something that.
I can ask for sure. I had a related thought. Oh yeah, one of the thoughts I had on this is that their reason for requesting us to do enforcement is so that they can get higher revenue from the tickets being bought. Because if no one's enforcing, then no one will buy tickets, so then their revenue will go down. So I think from our discussions, like they want people to all be paying to get a ticket there, or to not to get paying to park there, and enforcement will lead to that.
Yeah.
And so yes, I mean, by us doing enforcement, we're boosting the revenue from the paid parking.
But isn't it like a mutually beneficial arrangement because then there's more ticket revenue? Like, because enforcing the parking lot doesn't seem like it would take that much more time, would it?
You know, it doesn't take a crazy amount of time. Like we can write a ticket in less than a minute.
Yeah.
At this point, but we want to go back frequent enough to make it, because it's our parking. So
Yeah.
you don't want to just do it once a day so you'd have to go back multiple times and check all the cars.
Okay, so it's much more time consuming than the typical street parking.
It's different, yeah, it is, because you have to like check each car versus do they have a pass? Are we gonna chalk them? Are we gonna just look at their pass on their windshield? Versus out in the streets, we're looking at pretty obvious violations 80% of the time, like the red curb, the driveway, the fire hydrant. Some of those will do the chalking for the time parking, like in the loop, which is different, but it is slightly different work. It is slightly different work. And one thing to note too is that the money from the ticket dispenser doesn't go back to Isla Vista. It goes into the general fund of the general services department.
Yeah, I agree with kind of the point that it seems a little illogical for us to be doing work that might be the county's job, but
I'm gonna take this from a different angle, which is, I'm not a fan of just giving out tickets to give out tickets. We're doing this program on the streets because we've got like blocked in driveways, red curves, blocking fire hydrants and emergency vehicle access. And this is like a thing that people have been asking us to do for a long time, go back 10 years. Are there health and safety violations at the solar lot?
It's not health and safety, it's more business, like commerce. So the idea of the solar lot when they made it was so that there could be parking for the businesses, so people could come visit ID businesses. So that would be the goal with that, not health and safety.
And has staff received any comment from businesses about that lot?
just comments over the years, like when in casual conversation, people saying, well, no one can ever park there, or, comments about, or no one ever uses it because it's always being, stored cars. So, but nothing formal. We've never had like a one-on-one discussion specifically about that with people, but you hear things, so.
Yeah, I have a real hesitancy because it seems like the whole goal of doing the enforcement program on the curb is to get people to park in legal spaces. And then now we're being asked to go enforce on legal spaces in a way that seems like it's adding more workload to us without cost recovery. I just have a lot of heartburn about entering into the wage market.
I mean, what I will say is I do agree that ticketing just to ticket isn't really what the parking program was intended for, but I do think that there's value in giving that space to more businesses and also people coming to Eilers from other places if they're aware that there's a lot they can park in to come, go to restaurants here. I mean, that would be promoting the local businesses in the town. And I think that it's not necessarily, I don't know, I guess from my perspective, it's not like enforcing in legal space. It's enforcing people not paying to park in the legal spaces and trying to like reduce the amount of cars that are stored there. Because that's something I've encountered even when my family's come to visit, where it's like, there's no option anywhere because that lot has cars in it that are parked there all the time. So I feel like there's value in enforcing there, but I don't think that it's fair to enforce without some revenue from the cost of the tickets to be allowed to park there, yes.
Yeah, I also agree with Spencer on kind of your heartburn on the mismatch of maybe goals of the program, because with our parking program, our goal is not to write tickets and generate revenue. Our goal is, our goal is zero tickets, right? To have health and safety and right, not 103% parking capacity. But with this one, the county, says, oh, if we enforce more, then we can make more revenue from tickets, which not quite in alignment.
No, if we enforce more, they would get more revenue from paid
Right.
parking. Not,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like not quite in alignment. And then with your points about, perhaps this isn't the best way for us to go through them.
And I'll just say, just as a user of the lot, I will go there and charge my vehicle a lot, because one of the great things about it is that it has EV chargers, really the only EV chargers that are publicly available in Isla Vista. But I also wonder if in the past, when I have gone to that lot, I've paid not just for the electricity on my car, but I've also through the app been charged parking fees as well. And so I understand that the county has moved away from that model, but I guess this is just maybe on a different note, but it does feel like a little weird that under the current policies, it seems like the only people that are paying are EV users, when I view that as like a higher and better use to meeting our transportation goals.
One thing I'll add is that I think that, right now our program is kind of dependent on the ticket prices getting raised, which is like the county is like I don't know. I just think that it wouldn't help us to create animosity over something like policing a parking lot. Because I know that it's additional work, and it probably isn't going to make the same ticket revenue per like square foot that the street stuff does, but it also doesn't seem like it would add a significant workload. And the benefit is that we boost our relationship with the county and then get increased ticket prices that will actually allow the program to be sustainable.
Yeah, we can also, just because it says we're gonna enforce a lot, we can allocate as much resources as we want to this. Like we don't have to be there every day or every hour. We won't. We're not gonna do it every hour. I can guarantee you. We don't have the money or people or time to do every hour. We can maybe do once a day is what I can maximally say can be done there.
Yeah, that's
once or twice a day.
I feel like there's some value in like having homogenized policing of cars, just to like create a sense of fairness. And you don't want people to be like, oh, like they're not checking this lot, like let's all go park there, because
I do feel like if we're doing parking in Isla Vista, we should be parking. And then, you know, having other people have a carve out just seems more of that disrespect of Isla Vista. So that, I don't think sits well with me, but I do think it would make sense to cut a different deal with them. So if they've got data about how much they're making on the lot now, it's gonna be easy enough to see what the improvement is based on our efforts. And so, you know, if we split that with them in some percentage, I think that would be, it would seem very reasonable to everybody.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So ask for like half and half of the paid parking.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I do think that it makes sense to have parking enforcement across Isla Vista, but I feel like maybe having more discussions about maybe making the agreement a little bit different. I was thinking even, I don't know if this would necessarily work, but maybe like in the phrasing of it, like we receive that revenue from the paid parking until they increase ticket prices to a point that would make our parking program more sustainable. Like if they're not willing, if they're not able to accommodate like fully sharing revenue, then it would just be until that gets passed. I feel like that's important just for the extra work that it puts on.
Yeah, it does make sense for, you know, parking to be equitably enforced across Isla Vista. But I would like, you know, some renegotiation on
Yeah.
the kind of details of the MOU, and then also highlighting that with parking, our priority is health and safety, right? And making sure that, you know, our firefighters have access to emergency services.
What is the term of the agreement?
Well, this is an MOU that it's bigger, right, than this topic. It is our main MOU that we're using with the county to enforce parking, you know, at large in Isla Vista. So we don't have an end date. Or sorry, we do have a term for this, but it's 1 year that can be extended for 2 additional terms of 5 years each.
So this, the entire MOU will be back before us in, what is that, February or March of 27.
Yeah. Well, we originally approved it October 25.
October 25.
Yeah.
So it'll be back before us in October this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, it seems like there's more to be figured out. I really hesitate to give us more responsibility and put more on the plate. If there was maybe a side agreement in terms of, you know, it doesn't have to be in this MOU. I mean, the MOU, as I read it, delegates us the authority, but it doesn't direct us to do anything. It just says if we want to, we can. I think we need a separate agreement that is of mutual benefit and agreement about operationally what the cost recovery looks like for us. And maybe as part of that, the other element we haven't really talked about is what are the regulations in the lot? Who's responsible for the signage, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, it seems like now would be right for the time for the county to be thinking about these things, since, you know, it hasn't been changed in many years.
We asked
but,
them to do that too,
okay.
like
Yeah.
yesterday.
So, I mean, if for me, if I'm going to vote to approve this MOU, I would also direct staff not to begin actually doing enforcement until we have a side operational agreement.
No, we can do that, because yeah, I think what you said is really correct, which is this gives us the authority. But operationally, things, yeah, we can work on.
So I'd make that move.
I'll second it.
Would you say out specifically what motion?
To
Say it again slowly.
adopt the First Amendment to the MOU for a parking compliance program and further direct staff to work with the county on a solar lot operational agreement to be executed prior to the commencement of enforcement. at the solar.
Do you want to add revenue sharing to that part of the motion?
Yeah, I think we've all given good, I think
Yeah.
everyone agrees on revenue sharing
Yeah.
and just cost recovery.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that you've already talked to them about, just what are the actual regulations, since they haven't been updated, I think, since it was first created. Maybe now is the right time.
And also make sure we're not disincentivizing competing users. Add-ons, can I add to a round sentence?
We have a motion in a second.
Alrighty, we get a voice vote, all those in favor of, our motion.
Aye.
All those in opposition, and all those opposed. All abstain, thank you. I repeated opposed twice, all those abstain, sorry. The ayes have it. Motion passes with some adjustments. Alrighty, moving us on to item 4.7, the 26-27 economic adjustments for salary and wages.
All right, well, this is an annual process. There's no action for the board to take. It's just an informational item of what the inflation number is for March annually of this year, and that is 3.4%. And so that's the number we plan to work with at the finance committee to project our salaries, and it'll come for action to actualize in June after the finance committee has worked out the budget and has a proposal. But this is just how our policy works, is that we show the number, agree to use it for our projections for now, and then, or not agree. And then when the finance committee puts the budget together, we can vote to make the whatever decision or whatever recommendation they have actual. And if you'll see the fiscal impact, 3.4% on our salaries is going to cost us $30,000 for the year for all our staff. Well, except for myself.
I saw on here that we use the it's like LA Long Beach.
That's the only one to use. That's the closest one.
Oh, that is our closest one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one. That's what our policy says we used to.
Name and town.
That's-
For us, in
that's
our
fair.
location. Yeah.
And we just chose March semi-arbitrarily.
Sure.
You could choose any of the months. They're all,
Sure. Yeah.
no one month comes out higher or lower or anything, or it's kind of random. Yeah.
Do you have any public comment in person or on Zoom? Okay. Any more board?
So do we want to make a motion on this?
Or before learning deliberations before the motion further?
I don't think we need a motion on this. We'll make a motion for when we make it a reality. So this is just, if you all agree with the number, we can have the finance committee use this.
Yeah, I think
It's just
like,
for projections.
we, some years this has been a more difficult decision than others. So I'm glad that this is an easier decision to make to support this.
Yeah, and it is in the staff report that our revenue growth was 8%. So 8% revenue growth versus 3.4% salary growth, which is only half the budget. So like 1.2% really.
And that
Sorry,
revenue
1.6%.
revenue growth is just from an increased tax revenue.
Yes, off of taxes.
Okay.
Which is higher than our projection percent. That was the high. We did medium, so we got the high.
All right. No further questions or direction to finance.
Sorry.
Oh,
Direction of finance committee is yes, do this. Am I correct on that?
mhm,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
That is the direction.
Perfect. You don't need a vote, it's direction. Okay,
So paying attention.
we are. I'm getting there. All right, moving us into reports. Alrighty. First, we can hear reports from Members of the board, which the board will consider approving director attendance at public meetings, public events, and public hearings to earn an official day of service. Yes.
I will be attending I Live Safe tomorrow, and I'm gonna report a little bit about some of the relevant things we'll be talking about relating to county budget in a sec. We'll also be attending the UCSB San Benito student housing property topping off ceremony on Friday at 1 p.m. Really excited that UCSB is getting closer to making that project a reality. As an update on the county budget situation that we spoke about last time, I was able to review the Board of Supervisors budget hearings and provided sort of my own thoughts on Friday about the situation. The Sheriff's Office, it was proposing to cut 11 vacant positions that they are carrying. And as a part of that, they told the Board of Supervisors if those 11 vacant positions were cut, they would be cutting 11 filled positions in Isla Vista. I came away from the presentation with a lot of questions about why those two decisions are coupled together at all. If the Sheriff's Office has 11 positions that are vacant, why would the elimination of those positions impact Isla Vista? I also came away wondering how many total vacancies the Sheriff's Office is carrying. According to a recent auditor controller's report, the department ended last fiscal year with a vacancy rate of over 14%, which by my count is about 100 vacant positions countywide. I do not appreciate our community being put in the middle of this budget fight, especially when there are a lot of cuts that the board is going to be faced with having to decide whether to make or restore to services that include social services, staff positions, which are filled, by the way, CalFresh support, and library funding. And so my feedback and public comment is that exactly what the county CEO said, which is a strong safety net supports public safety. Let's figure out how we can work with the sheriff, who clearly wants to adjust his operations by putting this cut forward, and figure out how to do things more efficiently. We've shown through Soltopia that we can do things that drive cost reductions for the sheriff, if the sheriff's office will work with us and implement those cost avoidance measures. And so it's something that we're going to be talking about tomorrow at Isla Vista Safe in terms of what are the different strategies that we can do to help drive cost reductions for the sheriff's office overall. The Board of Supervisors ultimately voted to direct staff to work with the sheriff to find money for half of the Isla Vista cut, but not from the county general fund, from reallocating internal spending within the sheriff's office. And that is something that I think we should continue to work with them on how to do to make sure that we have appropriate staffing in Isla Vista, but also so that we are not dragged into this political fight. So that is my report.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for advocating for our community, which is all too often the first. Any other reports from board members? All right. Seeing none, we have any reports from standing and ad hoc committees? Don't believe we have any committee meetings since our last general board meeting. Yeah. All right. Have any reports from district council?
Thank you, Catherine. Nothing on my end.
Sounds good. Reports from general manager?
Yes, lots to report. So we've been doing a lot of our Soltopia debriefing, which has been going really well and will keep going. Lots of meetings that Maya's having, and I'm joining some of them, but Maya's taking most of them. We've been a lot more news stories. We were on a radio show recently talking about our success at Soltopia. So we're working on conference presentations and an award for the CSDA statewide award for Soltopia. So we're definitely making sure that narrative is out there. I already mentioned that we have the town hall that's on the, we kind of discussed this at the finance committee, like we did want to still have a town hall that's budget related rated, so we're doing the Ask Us Anything brand, but definitely will be, it's a budget tunnel essentially. And the state of IV, that kind of thing. Board retreat, Sydney sent out not a doodle, but an email with the dates and times, so let us know if those dates and times can work. If they don't, it's the same week as the town hall. We'll pivot again, but that's what we were able to find in May, all the 3-day weekends and Mother's Day and all that. Parking launched, well, it's launched, but yesterday the first tickets started getting written. So we have working through all the complicated, now it brings everything out of the woodwork now that we're actually doing it. So, but our team is fully trained. They did an all-day field training last Saturday with Captain Nicholas from Seal Beach, who was recommended to us from the Parking Association. They had a great time with that. They've been just, really, they're very dedicated, our team, and you'll meet them next meeting. But, they've had a rough week, obviously, a busy week.
I heard you armed them with yervs to give out.
They have yervs to give out. They have free pizza slices from Woodstocks to give out. They have, they were donated to us, all these things.
Anytime there's a confrontation.
Or people they meet in the street and they talk to, which we've had a lot. Like basically what this job is now is our main way to talk to people on the street. There's no other of our roles. I mean, our cleanup roles, they're really focused on a specific task when they go out and come back for it. But they're patrolling, they're walking around and meeting people and talking to them. So it's really good for the district to just be like talking to people constantly on the street. And
They should have them like be mic'd up.
Like
you could
Like
make
a join me for a day and then
Instagram.
we'll be doing those kinds of things for sure. Oh, for sure. We have a lot of different
Day in the life
Instagram
of
ideas.
writing
for
tickets.
the-
Writing
We're
party.
gonna do what's in my bag.
Wait, I like
I
so,
love
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Which they have a lot in their bag. They have Narcan in their bag, they have the herbs, they have.
They have
They do. They have dog trees.
They have dog treats which are human edible. But it says in the bag. I didn't try one, but someone did. One person did. Yeah. And so that the parking program is launched, but like I say, it's going well so far. It's going smooth. But we'll deal with issues as they come. But it's been going well. Cityhood study is fully, we're doing a lot on the cityhood study right now. We're working on the reference cities because that's part required by state law when you do a cityhood study. And we have a student group, Gacho Think Tank, who's working on that. And then we had a meeting today with myself and Catherine and Spencer and Sydney and Maya on the policing budget for the new cities. It's kind of relevant to what we just talked about that the county's doing. Will impact the city's hood study, however that goes. We learned about a new training you all need to do. So Sydney's been sending you the emails about the harassment training, so please do that. There it is.
Actually, hold on, wait a minute.
We're locked over here.
Yeah, don't tell her. And then there's the ethics training, so the board has to do that for sure. And now we learned, so yesterday Jenna and I went to the Santa Barbara County chapter of the CSDA. And it was good, Goleta West hosted it, so we got to meet the whole Goleta West staff and board who were all there. But we also learned that there's a new training the state required of board members on finance. So we'll get you the details on that. I know, we didn't know about this until last night. And so we have to take it as well. So we're all in it together. And then yesterday we had a meeting with General Services on the safety of the buildings, which is a big issue we've always been working on, but we're continuing to work on. And so that's something just wanted to keep you aware that the safety of the two properties has been an issue. They do have a security guard come 4 times a day, but there's a lot of projects that have been on the backlog since 2019. Hate to say 2019, but since then, like key code access or gating for the staircases or other things to make it just less porous here. And so we're trying to get those done. But we've seen these projects start and end many times in the last 8 years. So well, hopefully this time is the time it happens.
Thank you. We don't have closed session. Okay. Well, we have finished report. We'll close this out. So the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will take place on May 12th, 2026 at 6 p.m. on Zoom and here at the community room at 970 Embarcadero Del Mar. Isla Vista 93117. Thank you, guys.
Yay.
And for those of